She walked into court like it was a misunderstanding. Ashley Morrison, 22 years old, standing in front of Judge Frank Caprio on multiple serious charges: DUI, reckless endangerment, hit and run, destruction of property. A stack of offenses that could ruin someone's life, but Ashley didn't seem concerned. She was composed, confident, too relaxed for someone facing a jail sentence. She wasn't worried because her dad was Chief Morrison, the police chief. She expected to walk out with a slap on the wrist. She made it clear that she believed her father's position would change the outcome. Her tone, her body language, everything about her response to the charges showed entitlement. It wasn't just that she hoped to get off easy, she expected it, and she didn't try to hide it. She referenced her dad's position as though it was a shield, as if the law applied to everyone else in the room but her. Judge Caprio listened without interrupting. He let her talk. Then, without warning, he asked if she wanted to call her father right then and there. She hesitated but agreed. She dialed. The phone rang. Judge Caprio put it on speaker, letting the entire courtroom hear what would happen next. What came through the speaker was what Ashley expected. Chief Morrison didn't argue for leniency. He didn't minimize her actions. He didn't ask for a
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
favor. Instead, he delivered one of the most direct, unwavering responses anyone in the courtroom had ever heard. He said he would not interfere, that his daughter's actions were completely against the values he spent his entire career upholding, and that, despite being her father, he could not and would not protect her from the consequences. He stated clearly that she was an adult, that she knew right from wrong, and that protecting her would mean betraying everything he believed in, everything his badge stood for. In just a few sentences, Chief Morrison made it clear accountability mattered more than family privilege. The courtroom was silent. There was nothing else to say. Ashley had gone from assuming she was untouchable to realizing she was completely exposed. Her father had chosen principle over protection, and he did it publicly. Judge Caprio, known for his calm and thoughtful approach, didn't lecture. He didn't need to. The phone call had already done what no sentence ever could, but the law still had to be upheld. Ashley was sentenced to 90 days in jail, not probation, not a warning. Jail, along with mandatory alcohol treatment, community service, and restitution for the damage she caused. It was a real sentence, one that carried real consequences, one that sent a message not just to Ashley but to everyone watching: there are no shortcuts through justice. This wasn't about punishing someone harder because of who their parent was. It was about not punishing them less. It was about upholding the law equally, about showing that being related to someone in power doesn't exempt you from the rules. If anything, it makes it more important to follow them. Ashley served the sentence, the full 90 days, and somewhere in that time, between the silence of the jail cell, the forced distance from the comforts of home, and the realization that her name didn't protect her, something changed. She didn't come out with a PR team and a statement about how she'd been treated unfairly. She didn't try to spin it. She didn't blame the judge or her father or the system. She accepted what happened, and then she started to talk about it. Not to clear her name, to use it. Ashley began sharing her story, speaking openly about the night she was arrested, the charges, the courtroom, and the phone call, not for attention, for impact. She became an advocate against drunk driving. She started working with organizations focused on prevention and education. She talked to schools, to students.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
To young adults, people just like her, who might believe that one bad night wouldn't catch up with them. And when she told that story, she didn't leave out the most important part: her dad saying no. She credited that moment as the one that changed everything. She said that his refusal to help was what made her finally take responsibility, that if he had shielded her, she wouldn't have learned anything. She would have walked away again, unchanged, still convinced the rules didn't apply. Instead, she got the one thing she'd never had before: a reason to change. Chief Morrison never apologized for what he did, because he didn't need to. He stood firm in the belief that justice must come first, even when it's personal, especially when it's personal. He didn't let his love for his daughter override his duty to the law or to the community he served. And that decision didn't drive them apart, it brought them closer. Because Ashley eventually understood what he was doing, he wasn't abandoning her, he was giving her the opportunity to take ownership of her actions, to face consequences and come out better, not bitter, to grow up. The video of the courtroom went viral. For obvious reasons, it wasn't just the drama of the moment, it was the rarity of it. We're used to seeing people in power bend the rules to protect their own. This was the opposite. It was integrity in action, and it wasn't loud, it was quiet, controlled, powerful because it didn't need to be anything else. People responded to it because it proved something we often doubt, that justice can still mean something. That some people in positions of authority still take that responsibility seriously. That some parents still understand that love isn't always about protecting someone, it's about letting them learn. This wasn't a courtroom stunt, it was a real story with real consequences, and what followed was real growth. Ashley's life didn't end with her arrest, it started again, differently, with clarity. She didn't get a second chance because someone made a call. She got it because she served her time, accepted what she did, and used it to do something better. Her advocacy now carries weight not because it's polished but because it's real. Judge Caprio didn't need to raise his voice to deliver a message that would resonate nationwide. Chief Morrison didn't need to write a speech to show the world what integrity looks like. And Ashley didn't need a second chance handed to her, she earned it. The courtroom didn't just sentence someone that day, it reminded everyone watching that justice, when applied with honesty and fairness.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Still matters, that accountability is not cruelty, that facing the consequences of your actions is not the end of the world, it's sometimes the beginning of a better one. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of the power of accountability, if it gave you a little more faith in the justice system, let us know. Hit like, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear what real love and real integrity actually look like. And if you want more stories that don't just grab your attention but leave something behind when they do, make sure you're subscribed. Because this wasn't just a courtroom moment. It was a reminder that character is built in the hardest decisions, and sometimes saying no is the most powerful way to say I believe in you. Ashley Morrison stood in front of Judge Frank Caprio, charged with some of the most serious offenses a 22-year-old could face: DUI, reckless endangerment, hit and run, and destruction of property. It was a stacked case. There was no ambiguity in the charges. The facts were clear and the damage had been done. The law doesn't tend to make room for excuses in situations like that. But Ashley didn't approach the courtroom as if she were facing consequences. She walked in composed, too composed. Her posture, her tone, her demeanor, it all pointed to one thing: she wasn't scared, she wasn't pleading, she wasn't apologizing. What she was doing was waiting for the formality to pass, for the process to play out so she could leave with a fine, maybe a warning, and a promise to be more careful next time. Because her father was Chief Morrison, the local police chief, and Ashley knew what that meant. Or at least she thought she did. What happened next became the exact moment her belief system unraveled. Judge Caprio gave her a chance to explain herself, and instead of accountability, she offered context. She wasn't belligerent or arrogant, she was subtle about it, but it was clear that she expected to be treated differently, that her father's position would carry weight in the decision ahead. That assumption didn't get her far. Judge Caprio, known nationally for his sense of fairness and empathy, didn't scold her or call her out. He offered her a choice. Would you like to call your father? That question shifted everything. Ashley agreed. She pulled out her phone, dialed his number, and in front of a courtroom full of people, the call went through. Judge Caprio placed it on speaker. There would be no private conversations, no behind-the-scenes resolutions, no backdoor deals. Chief Morrison, the voice answered. It was calm, steady, you could feel the authority in it. Ashley started explaining. She spoke quickly, already trying to guide the narrative, hoping her father would hear the pan.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
In her voice and offer the protection she believed was automatic. But that didn't happen. Chief Morrison cut her off. He didn't yell, he didn't ask for details, he didn't even speak in anger. What he did was something much rarer. He told the truth, plainly, with clarity. He said he knew why she was in court, that she was an adult, that she had made choices that were inexcusable. He said she needed to face the consequences, that he wasn't going to interfere. that his job for the last 28 years had been to uphold the law, and that did not stop just because his daughter was on the other side of it. There was no emotion in his voice, not because he didn't care, but because he was resolute. This was not a decision made in the moment. This was a man who had already asked himself the hard question, would I do the right thing if it were my own child, and had already answered it. He said no. He would not use his position to shield her, he would not call in a favor, he would not suggest leniency. Ashley Morrison would stand on her own. The courtroom was silent. Ashley's expression changed. The confidence was gone, there was no bargaining left to do, and in that silence something important happened. Reality set in. Judge Caprio, who had witnessed the exchange in full view of the court, acknowledged Chief Morrison's integrity without fanfare. Then he did his job. Ashley was sentenced to 90 days in jail, not a suspended sentence, not probation, actual time behind bars. She was also ordered to complete community service, pay restitution for the property damage, and undergo mandatory treatment for alcohol use. There was no spectacle, no raised voices, no protests. It was the justice system functioning exactly as it's supposed to, without bias, without exceptions, and without special treatment. That might have been the end of the story. Ashley could have served her time quietly, disappeared from public view, and moved on without ever acknowledging the deeper meaning of what happened in that courtroom. But she didn't. When she finished her sentence, Ashley didn't return to life as usual. She didn't hide from the fallout or try to rewrite the narrative. She leaned into it, fully. She started speaking publicly about her experience, not to shift blame but to share accountability. She talked about what it felt like to assume you'd be protected and to realize you wouldn't be. She explained that she'd spent most of her life thinking her last name was a shield, that no matter how serious the situation, someone would step in before it got real. That's what had always happened, until it didn't. She admitted she wasn't ready for the consequences, but that those consequences, jail time, public embarrassment, the speakerphone moment, were exactly what changed her. Ashley didn't become a spokesperson or a figurehead overnight. She started small, speaking at high schools.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Meeting with groups of young people who thought they were invincible, sharing her story without exaggeration, without glamour, and without trying to turn herself into a victim. She became an advocate against drunk driving. Not because it looked good, because it was real, because it was personal, because it was the one thing she could do that actually made sense out of what happened. Over time, people listened, not because she was famous, not because she was a hero, but because she was honest. She stood in front of students and said, I thought I was untouchable, I thought my name would protect me, it didn't, I thought my father would save me, he didn't, and thank God he didn't. And she meant every word. She credited her transformation not just to the consequences she faced but to the decision her father made. That public refusal wasn't betrayal. It was protection in the only form that actually meant something. She said it plainly, if he had saved me, I wouldn't have changed. Chief Morrison didn't bend the law for his daughter, he didn't ask anyone to go easy on her, he didn't meet with the judge in private. He answered the phone, told the truth, and let her face what she had done. That's leadership. And Judge Caprio didn't sensationalize the moment, he didn't dramatize the sentencing. He followed the law, he showed fairness not just in how he treated Ashley but in how he refused to treat her differently. The video of that courtroom exchange went viral, not because it was shocking but because it was rare. People are used to seeing power protect its own. They are used to watching connections erase consequences. What they saw in that video was the opposite. They saw justice, integrity, and accountability all in one room. And they saw a young woman accept that justice, learn from it, and eventually choose to use it. Ashley Morrison's story didn't end with a sentence, it started there. That sentence echoed far beyond the courtroom. Let her face it. Not shouted, not emotional, just deliberate, steady. A sentence spoken by a father who spent nearly 3 decades enforcing the law and knew that upholding it couldn't come with exceptions, not even for his daughter, especially not for his daughter. It wasn't just a defining moment for Ashley Morrison. It was a defining moment for anyone watching, because we're not used to seeing that kind of moral clarity, not from a parent, not from a public figure, not from someone with something to lose. But Chief Morrison had already made peace with the fact that real integrity sometimes means choosing the hard thing over the easy one. Ashley didn't leave the courtroom as the daughter of a police chief. She left as a defendant with a criminal sentence. 90 days in jail, plus restitution, community service, and mandatory treatment. It was clear that she wasn't getting out of this with a warning and a speech. This was real. But the most telling part, she didn't fight it. Not after the phone call. Because everything changed when that call went on speaker. Up until that moment, she thought the rules were flexible, that this was all temporary, that someone would handle it. Then came the voice she knew best, her father's, except it wasn't a rescue, it was a wall, and when she hit it there was no softness, just truth. She didn't argue.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
With him, she didn't plead, there was nothing left to say. What followed in the months after was a reset. A complete dismantling of the story Ashley had been telling herself for years, that she'd always be okay because she had protection, that mistakes wouldn't stick to her because she had a last name people recognized. But protection doesn't mean growth, and the one time she needed a reality check, her father gave it to her in front of a full courtroom and a camera lens. That kind of public discipline, it could have broken her. But she let it rebuild her. There's something rare about that. Because once the sentence was over, she didn't try to make excuses or disappear. She didn't pivot into a redemption tour trying to save her image. She started working quietly, consistently, with real purpose. She spoke to students. She partnered with local organizations. She sat across from teenagers who thought they were invincible and told them, in her own words, what it felt like to believe that and be wrong. She explained the night she made the choice to drive under the influence. The crash, the damage, the hit and run, she didn't soften it, she didn't skip over her actions, and she especially didn't try to shift the blame. But what stuck with people most wasn't what she did. It was what her father didn't do. Time and time again, Ashley described that courtroom phone call as the moment she grew up, not because she was punished, but because someone who loved her refused to save her, not out of cruelty, out of conviction. Because Chief Morrison knew something most people don't want to admit, there are consequences worse than jail. A lifetime of believing you're untouchable, for example. A belief that laws are suggestions if you have the right connections. A pattern of skating by that eventually leads to a bigger, costlier fall. So he broke the pattern, not with anger, with restraint. Ashley didn't just thank him after the fact, she credited him. Openly. She told audiences that if he had intervened, if he had made a call, if he had helped, she would have kept going down the same road. And that road wouldn't have ended with 90 days in jail, it would have ended with something worse. That's the core of what made this story go viral, not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. It showed that real justice doesn't care who you are, and that real love doesn't always look like protection, it looks like principle. Ashley Morrison's life didn't fall apart when her dad said no. It came together. And when people share the clip of that courtroom moment, they're not just sharing a story about accountability. They're sharing a reminder that doing the right thing, especially when it's the hardest thing, matters, that the most powerful lessons don't come from getting away with it, they come from being told you can't. If this story stuck with you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button, share it with someone who believes in second chances the earned way, and drop a comment about what that phone call meant to you. And subscribe if you want more stories that remind us all, when it comes to character, actions speak louder than names. Because sometimes the greatest act of love is not stepping in. It's stepping back.